Right.
Whoa, this ain't one.
Be down the side. And
But I appreciate everybody on the chat tonight for your comments. Well, welcome to the Bee Connection tonight. I hope everybody's doing well. It's been an interesting week for me, and I think it has been for several other people actually also. So we haven't done much beekeeping this week. We ended up with what they thought was Lyme's disease, and put us up for most of the weekend and most of this week. So just now starting to feel better. No Lee's in the background tonight, so pray for him also. He's down with some kind of cold and not feeling very well. A lot of sickness going around. I know COVID's been moving around also. So as beekeepers, we get lucky. We can use our honey. That helps boost my energy up quite a bit. So does a man good to have a little honey on the side. So hey, Brian from Castle Hives, it's good to see you got your observation hive up. That's awesome, man. Spanky, what's been going on down there in your bee yard? Because I didn't do nothing this week in my bees.
I just got out of them and come and ate. So I went and looked in there at all the different colonies. The one I pulled honey off of, they've started putting some nectar in the few center combs, so they're getting something. So they looked all right. Another colony, they didn't draw out those frames I rotated in the center. One of them they started drawing on, but the other one they didn't even touch it.
Right.
So I'm assuming they're done drawing for this year.
Yeah, right. This time of year it does seem hard to get them to draw any comb out whatsoever, and we have no flow up here whatsoever. So, are you seeing some goldenrod down there yet, Spanky? Is it starting to bloom out?
Yeah, I've got it down there out in the field. I saw it the other week.
Okay, yeah. So there we go. Here, I know the ironweed was really come on. Those purple blooms, it's everywhere right now. So
yeah, I had a bunch of that Queen Anne's lace. I ended up mowing it off.
Yeah,
John said that they like that.
Right.
So
well,
I mowed it off.
I didn't realize the bees like that Queen Anne's lace until this year when we were out in one of our yards and they were all over it. I didn't realize they even paid attention to that until this year.
Yeah.
There's women here all over the place.
Yeah, another colony, they had a pretty good amount of honey up top, more than they had before. They didn't have enough to take. They were a frame shorter. I would have took it out of there and emptied it out. Make sure that queen's got room to lay, And then that nuke started out as that one frame nuke swarm. They're now in the 210 frames. And they got a little pissy whenever I open them up. So I need to do something about that because I don't care for that.
Right.
That nuke ain't done nothing yet. They haven't drawn out any more frames or anything. And
how's the honey looking in that nuke?
The what?
Did they have any honey in that nuke? Is it filled out pretty good, or?
If they do, it's in the bottom.
Okay.
There are loads of bees, but they ain't doing nothing up top, and they've had all year to draw that out. So I stuck one of them Mappy tablets on them. So
That's probably a good idea.
obviously they're not going to make no honey to pull.
Yeah, I had my those tablets, and the bees messed with them a little bit early spring, but I never did get them to, chew them completely up. So, but my colonies were all pretty small in the spring. So,
Well, this when I stuck it between that box that they're not drawing out any and the top of the nest, I didn't put it at the top of those frames.
all right.
Since there ain't many bees up there, I figured they probably wouldn't mess with it.
Yeah.
So and then the cathedral hive looked really good. I saw the queen in there. So they're doing good.
Awesome.
Hey, how's that hive doing, Spanky, that you had 3D printed? It's kind of I think it's an octagon, maybe? It's kind of that longer one. The hex hive, yeah. That one, I think, I don't know, it may have been, a month or a month and a half ago, you spoke about how that one you believe had swarmed. I'm just curious, did that one requeen okay?
Yeah, that's the queen right there.
Oh, okay, yeah. She's kind of dark banded.
That's the first queen I've gotten to come back.
Ever, ain't it?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Like ever?
Yeah.
Ever.
No.
Yeah.
And this just so happens to be the year that I haven't seen any European hornets around the nests.
Huh. I thought maybe Ricky was standing outside the hive snatching them up as they flew in or flew out.
They act like those yellow-footed hornets they're worried about. They act just like them. Once they know there's a food source, they want to build a nest right by it, and they'll sit there all day grabbing them.
So I wonder what the natural predator for that hornet would be that you could if there's something that you could do to combat that in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if there is, but just thinking out loud.
Probably a bird, some kind of bird. I don't know about dragonflies, but then you got dragonflies eating your honeybees.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't help the situation.
Yeah, I know they'll even kill praying mantis.
Yeah, they will. That's right. Hey, Mac, how's your bees doing? I know you said something about your log hives swarmed out. Was that right?
Well, everything's been going good. I've been busy. I did 40 cell graft about a week and a half ago. So I got like 35 out of it, but I had queens emerging on day 14. And they one of them took out like 7 of them. Because down like to 27, 28, I think.
I wonder if they emerged so early because of the warmer temperatures.
Yeah, that's why. When it's 95 degrees every day, them boxes are hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be checking them Thursday, but I believe the 6 nukes in your horizontal hive, the purple one, they're all bringing in pollen as of today.
Awesome.
And on my monster horizontal hive, there's 12 of them in there, and all but 3 of them so far I saw pollen coming in today. So that's a good sign.
Very good sign. Excellent sign. Yep.
And down here, our flow, where I'm up here for you, our flow has not really stopped this year.
Really?
It's been raining every third or fourth day, and then it rains like for 3 days. It's it's raining now. And I'm cutting grass every week, every 5 days. It's like springtime. It's crazy.
You're almost at a tropical pace with that much rain, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think our goldenrod's going to be huge this year. So
awesome.
I'm ready to put my supers all back on in another week.
I would venture to say, too, that the fall color from maples and all the other trees out there this year are going to be spectacular.
Yep.
Yeah.
Last year, they were pretty drab in our area, and I can imagine that they were probably pretty drab in most people's areas. The color just wasn't great because of the lack of moisture we had across the entire summer. But this year is going to be a complete 180-degree difference in that.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, Tom, what's going on with you and Melissa? It looks like Melissa's all fancied up. Did you guys get back in from dinner? Is that what's going on tonight?
No, I've
We-
actually
we didn't go eat
we,
out today.
we stayed home all day today. We didn't venture out at all.
Oh,
JW us.
Yeah.
Maybe when we get done, we'll go out. No, I actually I've been melting honey all day today to fill up my creamed honey, my creamer downstairs.
So
So-
the creamer that we bought from John Hill, was that at Nabi? We bought it at Nabi. We'll
Yeah.
actually get to use it. So what's that? Fast forward 6 months later, 5
Mhm.
months.
So I've been melting all of our cappings wax all this week and cleaning it. So I've been doing that today, and then melting down honey, you know, because it's all crystallized, melting down crystallized honey, and then dumping it into the creamer tank, and then it's got to cool down before I add the cream, you know, the seed to it. So hopefully I'll be able to add the seed tomorrow and get it mixing. So we were just home all day today, and I was all sticky, so I figured I'd go take a shower before we got on the live. So I was in a sticky mess.
Yeah. So when you say seeding, are you just using sugar crystals? Is that how you're using to seed your cream honey with?
So when I originally made my first batches of creamed honey, I made my own seed from crystallized honey, and you use a mortar and pestle, and you just grind it. I spent like 6 hours nonstop, pretty much grinding, because I was home alone and I was just watching movies and just like grinding the stuff and this crystallized honey until you can get it to the texture that you want, right? And it's not really that much. I've got like started with maybe like a quarter cup of it. And the ratio is 1 to 10, 1 part seed, 1 part liquid, uncrystallized honey. So it takes, you know, a week or so probably more like 2 or 3 weeks to actually build up to get a significant amount of seed so that you can make a larger batch. And so I did that. I spent all that time doing that. And then I must have added some liquid honey to it that maybe had a couple of crystals in it. And so it threw the texture off. So I had to start over. And I'm like, I am not making my own seed again. So I actually cheated, and I bought some seed honey from it's called Cox Honey Farm, COX Honey Farms or something like that. And they had like a 12-pound tub of creamed honey. So I bought that because I'm like, I can't do that again. I was so mad. But so as soon as the liquid, you have to heat the liquid honey to between 140 and 160 degrees to make sure it's completely uncrystallized. And so I've just been heating it up about probably 5 to 8 pounds at a time, and then dumping it into my creamer. And then I'll let that set overnight, and it should be cool enough by tomorrow morning that I can plop that seed in and start the creamer mixing around.
I didn't know there was that much into making creamed honey, but that's pretty cool when you go through the process.
Yeah. The start is definitely time consuming, but once you get that seed and you get enough in there that you can just keep adding liquid honey to it, you're good to go. You know, it's just that initial getting it going, and then making sure that when you add more liquid honey, that it's completely uncrystallized and heated. You know, the only way you can do that is heat it to that high temperature. So technically it's not a raw honey anymore because it's been, you know, heated, but it's kind of the trade-off.
Yeah, just remember if you do flavored creamed honey, pull some of the unflavored starter off to the side before you flavor it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, technically here in Missouri, unless you have a commercial kitchen, you can't do flavored cream honeys. So we won't be doing that. I might do once we get the second batch of the bourbon barrel honey done, I might do a bourbon barrel creamed honey. But that's about for right now anyway.
Bourbon barrel creamed honey. Now that's going to be interesting.
Yep.
Hey,
We'll
I'll
have for us, Ricky.
I'll buy a jar of that. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'll be your money man again too. So.
Creamed honey sells really well.
Yeah.
About probably, I bet you 95% of the time, if you get them to taste it, because a lot of people don't know what creamed honey is,
Yeah.
but 95% of the time, if you get them to taste it, they'll buy it.
Yeah.
Because they're like,
I agree.
wow. Even people that say they don't like honey, they'll buy that creamed honey.
Yep. I agree with
It's
you.
always
Yeah, I
worth it
introduced it.
to have samples sitting out at your booth or
Market
table.
table, yep.
You know, if you're doing a market, what have you, it's always worth the effort and time, because if I'm going to go out there and sit, I'm going to make certain that I am pushing the product. And I'm not trying to be pushing in anybody's face, but if somebody walks by and they're looking at it, and like, you just offered, like, can I offer you a sample of something? And then start to explain a few things, and you draw them into the table. And next thing you know, you let them taste the cream honey. Then you let them taste your lighter or your darker, maybe your bourbon barrel. Let them try everything. And by the time they're done, they're leaving with something. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
You're just helping them make up their mind that they wanted it. That's all.
And then there'll be somebody else walking by and they see, and that happened when we was at y'all's conference, and look, taste this, and they'd give to somebody, and then there'd be somebody walk by and like, oh, what is this? Well, let me have some of that, and then they would try it, and it would just snowball.
Well, that even the packaging helps, because that bourbon barrel honey, we package it in in flasks, so that catches people's attention right there, because they're like, what do you have? Where did you get that?
Yep.
We've had people that don't even like honey are like, what did you make there? And you tell us about it was aged in a bourbon barrel. And they're like, well, I want to buy some of that. And you're like, well, here, sample some. And I'm like, no, I don't even need to. And I'm like, seriously? I'm like, you're welcome to sample the product here before you buy it. They're like, no, they just like the idea of it. They're like, yeah, just give me a bottle of that. How much is it? And they're just peeling off the money, throwing it down on the table. So it's not usually a problem to sell those specialty items.
Yep.
Yeah.
Melissa just spoke with a local store here around the area that we're in, that he was already carrying 1 or 2 persons just liquid honey, and they've been getting a lot of good traction here lately. It's kind of a little farmer's market thing. And
Mushroom Day.
And I told her, I said, why don't you go over there? And I said, take him a couple samples. And I said, I know, just said, see how many people's honey he's selling. And all that he had was just some regular liquid honey from 2 different people. And we know both of them. And they both have good products. And I'm like, well, what else did he have over there? Because I had to go back to the job site.
And they're both priced comparable to us.
Yeah, they are. They're really similar to what we have. So we're not trying to undercut anybody here. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to discount something down just to get it to a store. I mean, we're not about that. But and there was a lot of things that he was lacking that we provide. And I'm like, talk him into that. I'm like, some specialty items. And that's kind of what he jumped on immediately. He's like, well, you're welcome to put your honey here and sell it. He said, I don't have a problem with that. He said, but I'm looking for, and he actually brought it up, he wants specialty stuff. And he mentioned honey straws and the bourbon barrel aged and creamed honey and maybe cut comb, things like that. All those value added items beyond your liquid honey. Those are all those things that you can usually mark up, that are good sellers, that bring people to the table, because everybody is, even if they don't know much about honey or honeybees, when they see comb honey sitting there, they're like, oh, is that the real stuff? Like that actual honeycomb?
They're
It's
just like
people are just,
fascinated.
it's like this mesmerizing thing. It's like, that is awesome how that, and you start talking to them about it and start diving down into the details about a few little tidbits about honeybees or the processes of things that happen. And it just snowballs very quickly. And then they end up walking away with something that they never had intention of buying, So,
and there's a couple guys on here like Brian from Flower Street Farms. He makes some really interesting creamed honey, and Russ Copeland's another guy that does some great creamed honey. So if anybody's ever looking for some, that's who I send my customers to. I'm like, hey, these guys, they know how to make creamed honey.
Creamed honey does not travel well in the mail. Brian sent us some; it didn't survive. So if you're gonna request creamed honey in the mail from an individual, like, wait till fall or winter. What's kind of surprising, because what's creamed honey that I ordered, it actually got lost in the mail. But the whole time I was expecting it to just be a melted mess. When I got it, it was still completely firm.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Not believe it.
I have no idea how that happened. Because it was in the 80s that week, at least high 80s.
When she said it was lost in the postal service mail, I'm like, yeah, you might as well discount that down. I said, there's no way it's going to survive that. It's sitting in the truck with any heat to it whatsoever. It's going to turn back to a liquid.
It was in perfect condition.
Couldn't believe it.
So Vincent has a good question here. So after inspection, I spent more time trying to get the bees to the other side. Yeah, that can be difficult if you have bees to roll over one side versus the other side, or if you have multiple colonies in a horizontal hive. Usually, smoke will run them to the other side. It's a pretty good way of doing it. If you don't have smoke, what I like to do, I don't really like the fuzzy, fanny looking little brushes that you have, but I carry a turkey feather around. I use it to swipe frames off with bees, and it's really fast and really quick. The bees, the fuzzy brush, the bees won't like sting it. With that feather, it's real easy just to kind of swipe them, and they'll go to the area that you want. So that's my favorite way of doing it. So
we just smoke them down. I don't let them build up on the edge. I'll take some smoke, keep my smoker handy, and just give them a couple of puffs on the edge there, and they roll right back over and past the divider back into their space.
Yeah.
Is there only one entrance in the horizontal that he has?
I'm not sure.
So if there was another entrance, I would just open that entrance and just let them
kind of go out and turn
yeah,
around.
Yeah.
What about you, Mac? How do you do that when you got bees, in your horizontal that's in a side that you don't want them in?
Oh, I just feather them over or I smoke them over like you mentioned. I do the same thing with the turkey feathers, but I take 5 or 6 of them and I tape them together with duct tape and use it as a brush, basically.
You use it as a
They
fan
don't-
too.
And a fan when it's
Yeah,
95
we do that
degrees.
now. I'm not patient enough to use a turkey feather. I tried that once. I'm like, no.
Well, I mean,
the turkey feather and bothering her with it.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, what I do a lot of times is I'll take a frame, like if I've got, I don't have a lot of colonies like most beekeepers do, or in the horizontal hives. I'll just take that frame and bump it and knock all the bees off of it. And then Ruth will be standing next to me, or Amber, and I'll hand that frame to them, and they just finish flicking the few bees that are on it, and then put it in the box, and here we do the next one. So that's the best way to get the bees off of honey frames, I think. So.
Yeah, DC brings up a good comment. He said, "My bees hate my brush." It's funny. He is absolutely right. I don't know what it is about the brush. The bees do not like it. If you want to, I have found that the bee brush, yeah, the bee brush agitates the bee brush agitates the bees more than taking an actual blower and blowing them out of the box. You would never guess that, but when we were extracting full boxes, we put the fume board on top, let it sit for a few minutes, keep moving down the line, and then we come back, we break it loose, tip it up, and I take a Milwaukee electric battery power blower, blow them right out of it. I mean, and just shoot them out of it. And honestly, you would think it would be really harsh on them or kill them. All they do is as soon as they pop out, they take flight, and they fly right back to the entrance. So it's really in my opinion, a faster and a better and an easier method on the bees than using like a brush. Now I'm sure the feather is probably a little bit better because it's a little bit softer, but ultimately if you're doing a large thing anyway, the blower works pretty good. So,
and Dave has made a good comment here. Hold a second, Tom. I'll get you here. Let me get this right here for Dave. He says my follower board has a small gap at the bottom, so the bees can go back and forth. So something good to do that, and people got to realize, especially with horizontal hives, they're so wide. Sometimes they'll cup. Okay, and you have a gap on the side, or even the bottom of your hive can kind of sway just a little bit. So something that I do on my hives is you can just add a little piece of cardboard, and that'll kind of make it fit your hive better, so those bees are not rolling from side to side. So anybody that makes a horizontal hive of your own, that's something good. You might not get your box quite square and might end up with that problem. So that's a really easy way to fix that. So go ahead, Mac. I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah, I was going to say on the turkey feathers instead of brushes, I use that on my grafting frame to get the bees off, and I don't even have to wear any equipment. They almost like it.
You see what Joseph wrote there, Mac?
Joey wins the internet tonight, man. That was the best comment right there.
Yeah, he sure did.
That's funny.
Hey, Joey, I do have a question though. After the turkey got lit up, did you fry them?
That was Thanksgiving dinner last year.
Hey, call me up.
That's a big fat turkey, I bet.
I'll hit up JW. We'll jump in the plane. We'll fly down south. We'll have turkey with you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. That's good.
But they places like sell something called a follower board. It's not really a divider board. They literally put in the description that it's a false frame, uses false frame, and so it doesn't cover the bottom, so the bees can go all around it.
Right.
It basically takes up space, but it's called a follower board, so people get it and they don't realize that it's different from a divider board until they've already bought it.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. So Richard here says he uses it on his lance frames. Yeah. Yep. I've got to say, and I haven't made a video of it this year. I got my lance hive up and rolling, and it's looking great. This is the first year I've got my lance doing anything. I've had it for 3 years, and this is the first year. And I really contributed that to the queen that's in it. She is absolutely laying those frames completely full. I still have the box a little out of balance. So about every 2 weeks when I go in, I take the frame and have to rotate it so that my comb's being drawn straight down. So, but it's out of level just a little bit. So that's something you got to worry about with those lance hives, because the comb is so long. You gotta make sure it's being drawn completely straight. So
Gotcha.
Are y'all using them cheap Chinese brushes?
yeah, they hate those. Yeah, they hate those brushes.
The American bees don't like the Chinese brushes.
So I got one of those. That's the stinging brush. But somewhere's around here, I don't know where it's went. I've got a brush that's similar, but it was for doing hand drafting, and it's very fine quality, and I use it out there, and it don't bother them. The bristles are very fine. They're nice quality bristles. So it's probably the bristles they don't like.
Yeah. And, you talked about that gap under the follower boards. It's not that big of a deal. Like, I don't think I've ever had, like Dave said, I don't think I've ever had the bees to go under and come up and build any comb. But if you have a crack at the top of your divider board, where the hive is cut like this and they can kind of slide around the side, I have seen bees build that way. It's something they don't really want to go down and back up to build comb. But if you ever see like a rafter and you do cutouts, it's usually a hole right at the top of the rafter that goes into the next section, and that's where they're building that comb at. So. Richard says all 3 hives have full of new comb. Where's the honey? It's a coming. If you got comb, that honey's a coming.
That's your honey right there. All that comb they had to build out.
Yeah, that's right. 100%. So. Tom, I think you got yourself muted, or do we have you muted?
I did. I think on all my supers, I only have one left that doesn't have comb in it. So I'm finally getting there all these years. And I think I don't have to buy any more, maybe 5 more. If we ever get a really good flow.
Right. That's the first time, Jonathan, I've heard of a queen going to the other section. So that's pretty interesting. I wonder if it was a virgin or something that ran into that other section. That'd be interesting to figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never had that
They
happen.
will. Those virgins run everywhere
Yep.
in a hive.
But yeah, them follower boards, they sell them man-like. Them things are not divider boards.
Yeah.
Well, some people, because, when I think of follower board, I'm thinking of it from like a a top bar hive or I'm thinking of it as a full divider board. And so if you don't read that description, you order some and you get them, and it's got all them gaps.
Yeah. Grammy, I want to say congratulations for finishing. Looks like you got your master beekeeping certification. That is absolutely awesome. You don't have to have beekeeping classes, and but I think it's a good thing. I'm a certified beekeeper with the state of North Carolina, working on my journeyman, and maybe one day I'll get to be a master beekeeper. But the information that you get, good information that you're able to pass along to other people, and what your information is pretty much truth, right? You're not hearsay from somebody else. It's good knowledge. With journeyman, I'm sorry, starting the journey. Yeah. So it's really good information to be able to pass along to other beekeepers. So I recommend it. I was a beekeeper for 4 years, and I took a beginner beekeeping class, and I found out how much I didn't know that I thought I did. A lot of mistruths, and so it definitely helps out. If you can get some good education, it definitely helps out. So, Tom, have you and Melissa done any of that yet? Mac, you done any beekeeping courses? I think, Mac, you teach some, don't you?
Well, I do some teaching for the young kids and for classes, but I'm not certified as a master or nothing like that. But I just did the basics, what a box is, long straw, and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
I
Melissa
was
and
doing
I
it like
Great Plains master program, have been for a couple of years. The problem I have is I don't have much free time throughout the middle of the season to dedicate toward it. So in the late fall, winter, early spring, that's when I'll do a lot of that work. I mean, we're in the master portion. I need to test out, and I just don't have any time to mess with it. So I'll get back to probably doing that maybe in October when things start to settle down just a little bit for us.
Yeah.
So,
well, Melissa likes to tell you what to do anyway, so that gives her a reason to, right?
that's right. Yeah. She's
going
not over here right now, but it makes her feel like she's in control of it, which, you know what, the illusion of that for her, that's fine. She can think that.
in control. Joey, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. How about y'all?
Not too bad. Is it pretty warm down there where you're at?
I had a question on the divider board.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could actually purchase one, but if you get a true divider board, wouldn't you have to have like a track for it to go in to get good separation from one colony to another?
If you really want it sealed completely off, Joey, yes, a track to slide that into does work good. We changed our new horizontal hives to actually have those tracks to seal off completely because you don't want those bees getting into your next chamber because you will have lots of problems. Yeah.
That's all. Following boards is all I've ever had in mind, and that's exactly what it is. It's just a following board. It's just to kind of make them feel closed in,
Right.
They could always go around it and under them. But each time I built the hive, the following board was built for it then. And if I get them mixed up because one hive may be built a little different, I had to go find the right one because it'll hit the bottom and won't sit down right.
Right.
And I think
you're right.
The only downfall with using the track to put them in is now you're pigeonholing yourself into this colony can only grow this big.
Yep.
So there's trade-offs to each one of them, I think,
Yep.
I've never seen a problem, Ricky, with what the ones that you built. And we have, two of them are out there in operation. And I mean, there can be little gaps. And I think sometimes the bees can kind of maybe try to squeeze through there, but I don't ever notice them hanging out over there. Like, I'll do one on each end and leave maybe the center open for a while. But I can also take that divider board and I can move it in and give them, instead of just 10 frames, I think those are all, let's see, that's That's 30 frames wide, isn't it? Or 32? I can't recall.
Yeah, 32. Yeah.
32. So instead of giving them each 10, because we have 3 sections in ours, instead of giving them 10, I can move it over and keep bumping it over and give them 11 or 12. But most of the time, those horizontals we're not using really like for production anyway. We'll just steal resources out of them or put the mason jars on top to get them to build some comb in there, things of that nature. So.
Yeah, and the other thing about doing the grooves is when they propolize that, that divider does not want to come back out. It is stuck tight. So you may have to take a torch, go up and down the seam on both corners to get that thing to soften up enough to release and pull up. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, has it been hot down there where you're at?
Yes, it has. It's hot every day. We've had rain every day except yesterday and today. The last couple of weeks, it's rained every day. But you can go out there right now and stir up a dust bed. It beats all everything.
Wow.
Joey, is that pretty untypical for you all to have that much rain like you're getting this time of year?
You know, I heard somebody say they'd never seen that much rain in July. That's the way it's always been. As long as I can remember, we've always had thunderstorms in July, especially in the evenings.
Okay.
Now, August is a little bit different story, you know, about mid-August. It'll just get where it's a drought, you know. And that may be getting started. I don't know.
So I think there's a hurricane maybe headed out y'all's way if it stays low. Is that not correct? You might get some rain from it.
Well, I hadn't really been watching it much, but last time I looked, they got it coming on the west side of Florida now. So
okay,
I don't know what it's going to do. I know I got my big generator set up, ready to go.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys got to have it down there.
Yeah. Got a big generator run the whole house, and I got about, let's see, 250 gallons of propane sitting ready to go.
Yeah.
I got a little above ground swimming pool, and I put water in it this spring, and I haven't had to put water in it since. Mother Nature keeps it keeping it full. That's the first. I'm usually always adding water.
So I missed this question just a second ago. I haven't never used the domes. Has anybody on here tried those out to see how they go, how they work? I know Cayman Reynolds had a good demonstration with them, but I haven't never used one.
So do you put another box and a lid over that, I guess?
Yeah.
Cayman just had it open.
Do they not just like propolize and build comb on that?
Yeah, well, no, not up there usually. I think the moisture gets up on that top and then it rolls down the side, down the side of your box. So I don't think they put anything on the dome itself that I know of. But I haven't never tried one. So anybody in the chat, have anybody tried one of these? I haven't. So
I think that might be my first one to ever see.
Yeah, Cayman's got one.
Yeah.
I guess my question would be, what's the sole purpose of it? You know, is it just for observation, or is there some other intent with that? I mean, I don't really understand what the actual purpose would be.
Well, the comment says he used it for ventilation out there. That comment.
Yeah.
Easily observed.
That's for observation there.
Yeah, more observation, I think. If you know, what was the price on that, Lee?
$20.
Yeah, $20.
That's not bad.
Be something fun to play with. If you had one colony and had guests over, it'd be pretty cool to pop the top off and let them see your bees. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I guess on the horizontal hive, you'd have to glue a bunch of them together, go all the way across.
Be like bubbles going
Make one big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ricky, can you make a sunroof for mine, please?
Well, we have put in clear inner covers in some horizontals.
That's
I've got
right.
one that's got a clear inner cover. So yeah, so it is pretty cool being able to go down and open it up and show people the your bees. But there's a lot of condensation that builds there, and I don't know. I like wood because I think it absorbs the moisture up, and maybe Joey can talk about this, and Tom. Well, all of you guys got horizontals, but it feels like the wood pulls and contracts in those hives. It's like your whole hive itself is alive in some aspects, and due to the moisture and the heat that it's always taken on. So,
So Keith Bilden says he runs screen inner covers. So do you notice them propolizing those screen inner covers? Because every time I've seen anybody use them, they're always almost completely propolized. And even like our inner covers, we screen the hole in the middle of our inner covers. Almost every single one of those, the bees have propolized. So do you, when you run those screen inner covers, do you find them just propolizing them because they don't want that ventilation?
Yeah, I had one and it was all but the little spot in the center was all purplized.
Here's what a guy in our club does.
Only around the edges it does.
He uses the screen inner covers for ventilation and being able to look in. Kind of the same way I use those interview covers. I don't know if y'all ever saw them in my videos, but he had trouble with them when he first started plugging that screen up. But he learned what's a lot of people using now, that insulation you put on
the double bubble
like Ian uses.
Yeah.
He started putting that on top of the screen under his lid, and they don't propolize it up. That way, when he wants to look and give them any ventilation, he can.
So we use that double bubble only in our nukes because they keep propolizing or propolizing the frames to the lids, and it's a pain in the butt then to get the lids off without the combs being stuck to them. So we started using that just so they wouldn't propolize the lids down to the frames.
So he's saying that dome covers help out ventilation.
Those interview covers that I use, they got 3 holes in them with screen in them where you put jar feeders on them. Excuse me. And if you don't put a lid in there, those bees, it don't matter if it's summer or winter, they're going to plug them all up. Every one of them.
See, that's kind of what we noticed here too when it comes to screens. Like Melissa said, we screen the little holes in our inner covers, which are 70 millimeter roughly. Plus the we've never bought them or used them, but we know somebody around the St. Louis area who has, and we've gotten into those hives, and they just completely propolize those entire screens. I mean, from side to side all the way through. So, and maybe it's our climate, and maybe somebody else's climate would be different, and they would do something differently. I don't know, but to me, that tells us in our area, they don't want that upper ventilation. They just don't. So I've never really been. And when we started to listen to
Dr. Heschbach,
Bill Heschbach, and his condensing hive method and such, he kind of changed my mind a little bit. And it wasn't just because I was jumping on another bandwagon. It was more
you're kind of on that path anyway.
The fact that I seen what the bees were doing when we would screen those holes and such, I'm like, they're completely propolizing this up. If they wanted it just for part of the year, they would probably go in there and chew that back out, but they don't. They just leave it in there year round. And it happens like 95% of the time, even on small colonies, they'll propolize that screen up. So it's like, and again, this is just, I'm speaking for my experience, not for everybody's climate. They don't want it. So that's kind of helped me to become a little bit more of a believer in that, not having an upper entrance or what have you. I think it's one of those things where it's like subtle differences. I don't think it's like something that's going to cause a catastrophic failure for Joey and not for me. I think it's those little subtleties, you know?
Yeah. And it may be the area that you're located in also, you know? whether you can or works good for you, doesn't work good for you. So
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Just because it's working for me doesn't mean it's going to work for Ricky at a different elevation or a different climate, you know, or even Joey further down south. He's going to get a little warmer and stay warmer than what I am. So, you know, it's just to each their own, I guess.
When
Too
I first
busy
started,
catching raccoons.
I first started building my lone hives, every other those little 6-inch or 5-inch inner covers, every other one I drilled holes in them and screened it.
Yep. Yep.
And within a week after putting them in there, they had them all plugged up.
Yep.
Joey, actually, that just gave me an idea. You should do a video on that if you already have it about that specifically. I know you like to make a lot of videos and stuff. Maybe that would be a good one that you could kind of talk about or show what you've done and show what the bees are doing. Just an idea.
Joey's
he's a video putting bubble wrap over the screen, because I'm going to do that with my observation laying straw for the people next year, so they can see a beehive. I can just pull the bubble wrap off, double bubble wrap off, and have the screen there, so I know they're protected. My customers.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Joey.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Mac, is this your picture of your wax melter that you've got?
So no, that's mine.
Oh,
so that's what I've been working on this week. That comb is actually cutout comb.
Yeah,
I think.
I want to grab a couple of those blocks.
So that's the wax melter from Hilco, and that's how it comes out. And then after I filter it, that's what it looks like.
Yep.
And then this is what I did. Here, Tom's bringing it over. This is from yesterday and today.
Gosh.
This
is just cappings.
Yeah, I mean, it's all got a really nice color to it, you know. I mean,
this is just cappings from Honey Harvest.
For me, a solar melter is the way. If you're going to melt wax, throw it out there. You know, you can leave it 2 or 3 days out there and not even come back and mess with it, and just come and get your wax and do the second wax filter on it, which works even better. And it gets so clean. You don't have that mess in your wife's kitchen that she's yelling at you for, and all the pots and stuff that you waste doing the water method. So I love a wax melter.
So what I do is I put it in the solar wax melter. I put paper towels. I don't know if you can see the paper towels in the solar wax melter on the one picture. Yeah.
You barely see it. Yep.
Yeah. So I laid paper towel across there to kind of catch more of the debris. Most of the debris that's in the pan from the melter is either dead bees that were just caught in there that were still alive, and then honey that's in there.
Or cocoons.
No. I mean, that gets in the pan.
Oh, yeah, in the pan. I'm sorry.
So I usually empty it at night and then bring it in, and I put it in an aluminum pan with about a ½ inch of water and melt it down on like 250 in the oven. And then I let it set overnight or whatever. And then in the morning, I'll rinse it off and melt it back down, and then without water this time, and then pour it through a oil filter, food grade oil filter, into here, I'll go get it, into a candle pitcher.
Go grab the thing.
I will. And then it comes out nice and clean. I'll pour it into the.
So, you know, it's amazing. And we bought one of these solar wax melters from John. And when I originally was looking at them, a lot of them use a wooden box. And I'm like, yeah, I really didn't want that. Then I found John had one that was really economical that was in a metal box. So I ended up buying one because with some of the cutouts that we were doing, we have a lot of wax. And if you leave it sit too long in a 5-gallon bucket, hive beetles will start to propagate themselves inside that pollen and anything that's left in there. And then it stinks, and then I have a mess. And then, so anyway, when we'd get back, we would start to, right there. The original one he had didn't have the plastic tub. It was a metal stainless steel tub, which honestly, we have 2 of the ones that are shown there in the picture with the plastic tub,
better.
And they all 3 work phenomenal. So like I said, we have 3 of them, and I cannot believe, I was a little skeptical at first, thinking that it would probably just kind of give a real rough rendering of the wax and it would still be dirty. That is complete opposite. When it comes out of this, it is like, I'm saying it is almost clean. I mean, we really clean it again just to get it really, I mean, to really fine tune it. But it is actually fairly clean when it comes out of that. There's no effort. You literally throw this stuff in there, let the sun do all the work, and just walk away from it, and it comes out, and it's pretty phenomenal. I mean, so that's why we end up buying a couple more, so that way we don't have to leave a lot of comb sitting around for any kind of length of time. We can quickly get it in there and cycle it out. At least a good first rendering anyway, and it helps to simplify our process anyway.
But after I kind of clean it, melt it down with the water, let it solidify, and then rinse it off, and then I remelt it again without water. So I've got this little metal thing, and here's the filter that I use, and then here's the candle. It's just a candle pot, I guess. Just put it on there. I pour my wax in there, filters all the nasty out, and then I just pour it in these little loaf pans. It sets up in about an hour or so. Easy peasy.
Yeah, it's a really easy way to do it.
And I've got a video showing taking that wax right there and just put it right back on your frames. You don't even have to take the step there. You finally finished it completely out.
Mm-hmm.
You just, after it's rendered the first time, take it and put it right back on your wax foundation. And man, they draw that out so quick. It looks, I mean, the bees love that.
Yeah. There was a guy I was talking with just the other day that bought a few things from me, and he was asking a lot of questions. He's a first-year beekeeper, and I sent him to a few educational sources. And then one of the things that he asked about was, he said, "Yeah, I'm having a real hard time getting bees to draw out comb on my plastic foundation inside my wooden frames." And I asked him, I said, "I'm just curious, did you buy your stuff locally?" And he said, "No." He goes, "I ordered it online." And I'm like, "What's the name of the Hive?" And I said, "Was it a full component set?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said the name of it. I said, "They're made in China." And I said, "You'll notice that the wood will degrade very quickly because they use a wax dip that's on there that it's not baked in. It's more of a coating." And then I told him, I said, Cayman Reynolds has a great video, and he's talked about this quite often, where the wax that they're using from China on these plastic frames, first of all, may not be food grade plastic frames, whether that makes a difference to you or not. And if it's in a honey super, it does to me. And then they're using not straight beeswax. They're using a cheap paraffin and beeswax in there. And bees don't like paraffin wax. So they're not stimulated to want to go to the frame and really draw it out completely. So that's why I told them, I said, stop buying the Chinese stuff, support your American, fellow Americans. For one, you might pay a pinch more, but it's worth the money. And then you also get a better product too, because to my knowledge, and somebody may be able to correct me, I haven't found any frames, and we've only used a handful. Acorn, Premier, and then now Daniel with Golden Bee, his own frame. He's a local guy. But it's all USA plastic. It's all food grade, and they all use a better quality of beeswax on there, which really will stimulate those bees to want to work on plastic. So we haven't really had any problems. So that's another thing to think about too with this, with waxing your frames and such. Like Ricky said, you don't have to completely render it down like a second or third time.
So
just get it raw and then spread it on there in any way form you can, whether you use a roller and an old crock pot, or whether you just heat it up a little bit and you just use it as a crayon and roll it on there. I mean, I've heard guys saying that works just fine. So, I mean, whatever it really takes,
So this is what it looks like after I melted it down with water. And then there's a little bit of crud on the bottom, but when I melt it, I'll melt it down again, just like this, with no water, in the oven, in that aluminum pan again, and then pour it through that filter, and it'll turn out perfectly clean. Philip Morris asked if we put the slum into boiling water. So usually what I do with the slum that's in, with the cappings anyway, I just scrape those all to the very top of the melter, and I just let it keep rendering till it just won't drip anymore out. When we are doing like cutouts and I'm putting wax in there, like cleaning wax from cutouts, I'll just leave it in there for a really long time until it's completely dry. So there's not any wax in there. And if there is, it's not enough to mess with.
I think actually, if anybody wants to know how to squeeze any of that additional wax out of there, Philip does have a good video that he had posted maybe not more than 2 weeks ago, and that specifically talks about how to really extract every bit of. So for somebody who really wants to be meticulous with it or doesn't have much wax to begin with, and you want to get every ounce of it out of there, go to Philip Morris's RTX Honeybees channel. And I think within the last 2 weeks, he had actually posted a video that is a really informational. I actually watched it, Philip. So great job.
We used to do like the turkey fryer and boil water in there and do it that way. And it was just a pain in the butt for me anyway, because I don't like using those propane tanks when Tom's not around.
You know, it heats it up fast.
It makes me uncomfortable. So
it heats it up really fast, and it's a really good to get a first rendering. But I will tell you what, anytime I've ever done it in the turkey fryer, I've never gotten it that clean on a first rendering. It usually has a layer on the bottom.
Nasty stuff.
There, that's just really nasty stuff across the entire bottom. And it can be as thick as a quarter or a half-inch thick with just, nasty scum on the bottom of it. So that's why, like I said, when we had gotten that first one from John, I'm like, hey, you know what? We'll just use it to kind of help clean it up, throw some on there. It won't take any time. We can throw it on there in the morning, deal with it in the afternoon. It doesn't require us setting aside a chunk of time. But when this thing worked, I'm like, hey, let's get another one. And then we ended up with 3, and I'm not sure how that happened, but all 3 of them are used.
Well, because last year we had so much wax from cutouts. We're like, we need another one.
Yeah. I know. It was me threatening Melissa. I said, if you don't move that stinky bucket or those stinky buckets of this nasty comb out of here, I'm like, I'm going to yeet these things into the woods, because I would go up there in the mornings and it would smell like death up there. I just couldn't stand it anymore.
Well, guys, I got to get to work tonight. Still working 3rd shift. Maybe next week, maybe the last week. We'll see. I do appreciate everybody that's on here tonight. Tom and Melissa will continue to run the chat tonight and till a little bit later. I just want to say I appreciate you guys being on. Joey, appreciate you and Tom coming on. And hopefully you can, after I get out of here, I'll listen to you going down the road. Tell me how you guys render your wax. I think rendering wax is so a lot of beekeepers don't know about. So this is some really good information for everybody. But I do appreciate you guys coming on and being with us tonight. And I will catch you guys next Thursday.
Have a good night, Ricky.
Yep.
Good night. Have a good day working.
See you later.
Bye, Ricky. So Philip said, no, Keith says he uses glass, but does plexiglass. So the ones that we have, that is plexiglass, isn't it? It's not glass.
I think,
but there's a baffle between them.
I think Lee had pulled up a short or maybe a picture of it earlier. I don't know if you still have that in queue, Lee. It actually is. So it's difficult to really see. And you can see kind of the lines that are in it. There's an air gap between the upper layer and the bottom layer. So it's not just a single layer of plexiglass there. Those lines you see are like the ribs that connect the top piece of plexiglass to the bottom. It's almost like one formed piece almost. Kind of hard to explain, but I'm guessing it may be a half-inch thick. And I don't know if his idea behind it was to use it as like a magnifying glass effect or what was going on there, but I mean they work well. So
yeah, I think you're right there, Tom. I think it's there to heat the surface up a little bit better.
And it works.
The whole box. Yeah. Hey, I did a little experiment this year. I didn't really do it officially, but I bought some single wax Premier and I bought some double wax frames foundations.
Mm-hmm.
And on the single wraps, I just rubbed the wax blocks on the wax on the frames. They built those out before they built any of just the double wax melted frames.
Really?
I keep blocking my toolbox for that.
Now, Joey, when you have a block in there, do you heat it up at all, or is it warm enough at that time? You just kind of rub it across there like a crayon?
Yeah, it's just pretty warm from sitting in that box, and just rub it all over it.
Yeah.
If I've got a plastic frame that's been sitting in a empty box for days, that's what I'll do. I'll just rub that wax block all over it. Yeah,
next year I'm going to do a real experiment. buy some with no wax, 1 coating, 2 coating, and on the no wax, I'm just going to rub it on there and see if they build it out just as good or better than 1 or 2 coats of melted. I got a feeling the no wax that rubbed on will do better.
So I have a question for you guys now to see what your experience is. So if you had bought some wax foundations and let's say they were single or double coated, it doesn't matter. And you didn't get those in the box that year, that beekeeping year, to get them drawn out. Let's say come the next season, or maybe even 2 seasons down. What was your guys' experience with the bees drawing those out? Did they still go to them and draw them out, or did you have to re-wax them? What was your experience?
They eventually will, but sometimes seems like they're slower to getting on those. So what I do, I'll take them out of the box and lay them on the picnic table or the bed of the trailer, and just let them lay out in the sun for about 10 minutes on each side, and it kind of refreshes that wax on them a little bit. If they're already waxed good from last year.
It's almost like it kind of like I don't know, it re-stimulates that smell on there, maybe, you think?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I've noticed the
Yeah,
same
I do the
thing.
same thing. I just lay them out in the sun for a few minutes.
Yeah. I would imagine, though,
Don't
this
go-
time of year, you'd have to be really cautious about laying, especially if it's black foundation, throwing it on the truck bed for probably longer than 10 minutes. That thing's going to get a big belly.
Yeah, you can't leave it out there long.
No, I believe me, Tom, I've done that already because I forgot. Oh, shoot.
I have
I
too.
come back and oops.
Don't feel bad. I usually take the foundations and pull those because once they warp, they'll never go back again. And for me, I get really anal and OCD when I see a frame that's got a little curve in it, and they draw it out thick on one side and thin on the other side. I take and throw it out of the hive and throw another one in there. It drives me nuts.
I wonder if you laid it on the other side for a little while, it would go back.
I've tried that before, and actually, my experience is it has worked, but very seldomly, especially if it's pretty good, if it's drawn out pretty well. It's like they propolize that in there, and it doesn't want to move. Even if I try to move it and break it loose, it just never seemed to go back the way it was. So that was my experience.
I'll tell you what I did. I had a whole box of foundation. I just had it on the trailer, and as I needed it, I'd grab one out of the box and pop it in a frame, and you know how after you take so many out, they kind of fall over halfway. I had some that fell back, about 10 plastics that fell back against the box, and I didn't think nothing about it, and it sat there the whole time I was in the bee yard. And when I got back home with the trailer, it was still there, and I got to looking at it, and all 10 of those were bowed. I should have probably closed that box back up or something. But
were you able to get them back straight again, or how did that work out?
I think I tossed them.
Yeah,
I never could get them straight again.
Yeah, that was my experience as well.
Yeah, once they're warped, they're warped.
Yeah,
I used a couple of starter strips, and that's about it.
We've used them before when we're doing cutouts. Sometimes you need a template of what size you need to cut that piece of comb to. So if you have one of those, it's the perfect size. You just throw it on there and cut it a 1/4 inch smaller, so we're just using it as a template, or as like if you've got a piece of really soft white comb that you're cutting out, it doesn't want to hold together and it's very malleable. So we'll hold it up there and I'll lay that piece of comb down on top of one of those. So, I mean, it isn't very often that we have them fail like that, but occasionally they'll get away from you.
Yeah, I got sugar water on the one I did today, since they don't have any comb.
Yeah,
I gave them a few comb frames to start out.
I kind of wanted to start feeding a few colonies, but I was reluctant to do so because we had put, and it's been 2 weeks ago now. Let's see, actually 2 weeks. 2 weeks tomorrow, right? 2 weeks tomorrow. We put an Apigard treatment on ours, and we did a full 50-gram dose. And I had done it because we were in a really cool spell up until this week. But I figured they would have off-gassed enough that I wasn't concerned about it. So I'm probably going to stall and put my other dose on until midweek next week. But so I hadn't fed anything because I didn't want to distract them from moving that Apigard treatment out through the hive. So that was kind of my reason for halting. But I did throw some deep boxes back on some of these double deep colonies in hopes that maybe there was enough bee power still left in there. And if I can get past that treatment, I can start to stimulate them with a little bit of 3/4 to 1 syrup, maybe get them to draw me another box of comb for next year. So with the continued rain like Tom's having and we're having here, we're still noticing trickling stuff come in. Nothing significant, but I've found some areas where you go up, you tip up a frame and you see some dripping out. So I'm like, yeah, that was only in there for the last couple of days. So I think it's hit and miss, and I think it's very, very isolated where it's happening. Like 1 mile down the road, I might have, or 1.5 miles down the road, I might have a apiary that's not really bringing much in, but the other one, again, 1.5 miles back might be bringing something in. So it's very, very isolated. There's a commercial guy in not my immediate area, but it's the middle Missouri, which is a couple hours away. Now he's near soybeans, so that's a different agriculture there. He actually put boxes back on because they were bringing in a lot of soybean nectar. So that was his reason for doing it. So I think that it seems like that a lot of people around the area have been having significant rains and just enough to keep things moving along, much like yourself, Tom. And even Joey, having just enough rain there to keep some things just kind of pushing a little bit of nectar. Yeah, Jonathan, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is Paul? He put him back on, and I was completely amazed that he was able to do that. So hopefully he can get himself a nice crop off of that and help to capitalize on that a little bit. Tom, are you near an agricultural area?
In my area, there's a lot blooming. There's Queen Anne's lace, there's chicory blooming, there's ironweed blooming, and I've actually just now, the last 2 days, noticed the early goldenrod is blooming, but I know the bees don't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
So that just tells me in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, all the regular goldenrod will be blooming.
Yeah, that'll be good. Hopefully that means that all of us here collectively may not have to feed quite as much if there's still enough moisture in the soil to keep some of those plantings and that forage crop, keep it producing just enough nectar. Even if it's doing nothing more than going hand to mouth right now, at least they're not eating their stores down. So that'll help us out a little bit in the end as well.
And my clover is still green as can be. My whole yard's still green as can be. It never turned brown this year.
Yeah,
like it normally does.
Makes me happy because we
don't have a.
Tom hasn't watered the grass all summer.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing.
We don't have a nectar going here right now.
Nothing, Joey?
No nectar coming in, but we do have pollen coming in. A bunch of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about that before. You just mentioned there, Joey. You said you have pollen coming in, but not nectar. And I've thought about that before when people said, yeah, I'm not seeing any nectar or this, that, and the other. I think if I was to have a choice, whether the bees could find pollen or nectar, one or the other, but not both, I think I would want to be in your position where they were bringing in natural pollen and then I can just feed them with some sugar syrup, Well, does that make sense?
So long as it wasn't when you were trying to.
Now, see, they may be nectar coming in, but it's probably there's not enough coming in to have access.
Yeah, like hand to mouth.
There is any. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what's happening. When I put stuff out to be cleaned up, the bees are all over it. It's like there's definitely stuff flowing around here, but it's definitely hand to mouth because, like I said, when I put stuff out that has honey residue on it, the bees are all over it, cleaning it up.
Yeah.
I had a double deep that I didn't, it ran as a double deep. And I noticed all the bees were in the top box and there was no bees down the bottom box. So I go take the box off. I go look in it and 8.5 frames of pollen.
Holy cow.
There was no need for them to go down there. Yeah.
So hold on. My question is, with that much pollen down below, that was queen right, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy cow! I can't believe that's insane to have that many frames of pollen, and that was just recently.
Yeah, that was just 3 weeks ago. Because
Wow.
they've been bringing in a ton of pollen. Like every morning, I just see bee after bee coming in with pollen.
Hmm.
I don't know whether they're getting it from the chicory or I don't know where they're getting it from. But I actually was a pretty good find because I took all of them. I put one in each one of my splits that I did, so they all had some pollen, honey and pollen in them.
Yeah, I noticed the same
I
thing.
used them.
Some splits that we had made a month ago, and I had only done five of them, I think. When I picked up some queens from, or Corey had the last few remaining that I grabbed from him, but so I made these splits, and I noticed I went and checked them here this evening, so about a month later, and they were all, well, with the exception of one that had accepted the queen, but then something happened along the way, and I'm not sure what it was because I found some cells in there. Every one of those had at least probably, and I had 4 frames in this nuke. There was at least a frame and a half of pollen in each one of them, so I felt like they had good nutrition for that too.
Yeah. That hive did requeen themselves because when I saw the queen, she wasn't marked, and she should have been a marked queen.
Mm-hmm.
So I know they requeened themselves. So maybe during the requeening they brought in all that pollen. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be. I've noticed that before, Tom. So, like, if they're queenless for a short period of time, but they still have a good field force going on, they'll actually start to stock up on that, what seems to be pollen and some nectar too, but stock up on pollen. That way, when she starts laying, they've got a good surplus to move off of.
Yeah, they had a surplus this year.
That's a good thing.
They probably had three years worth.
Yeah. Well, with 8 frames, they shouldn't go wrong with that, I don't think.
Yeah.
You might be able to left them hive and move some around to some other colonies that might be a little bit less fortunate or something,
No, that's right. I used them all.
Oh.
And the top box still had the normal one on each end. So
yeah,
I just we swapped the boxes around, took all the frames out, and gave them new frames.
Joey, are you seeing that much pollen in your area?
You talking about coming in the hives?
Yeah.
Yeah, I sat here watching this little nuke by the honey house today. It was just like early in the morning too, real early, about 6:30.
That's good.
Yeah, I noticed that they're bringing them in the morning time. They bring in the pollen big time. It's about 9 or 10 o'clock.
DC said he put pollen traps on to slow them down.
Well, I should have put traps on that hive.
I think so. If you had 8 frames of pollen, you could have definitely trapped some of that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was already in the cells. It was too late. That's what happens when you have to work full time and you got 50 hives.
Yeah.
I can't get in every hive as much as I want.
Yeah,
so I only got 4 more months and I'm free.
Sometimes you have to make your inspections very, very quick, and you have to be very on point for what you're looking for. And as soon as you find that answer, and when you dive into the hive, you close it right back up and you move on. When you have that many hives, you have to move very quickly on that. Be very precise.
That's the way I like to do it. I like to get in and out of a hive, but when you're doing a video, it's a little different. You got to slow it down.
Right.
But when I put that camera down, I can go through 4 or 5 of them about as quick as I can go through one box with the camera on.
Yeah, Joey, you make a lot of videos on your stuff. How long? So if you're videoing as opposed to not videoing, how much time does that add to it, would you say?
Oh, it's 3 times longer.
Yeah.
At least. Just in the bee yard, it's 3 times longer moving the camera around.
That's probably why I don't try to make that many videos unless I'm having a moment where I feel like I've got just a free minute to do something very short. I just unfortunately I don't.
That's how I am. I'd love to make more videos, but I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
even today doing that absconding out of the tree. I wanted to video that, but it started raining a little bit while I was doing it, and then I could hear the thunder, and I knew storms were coming. So I didn't have time to set up. I had to get these bees out.
Yeah.
I took the day off just so I could do these bees.
I hear you. How's it
Mother
going?
Nature or not. So I actually was getting them out through the rain this morning.
That's always fun.
Yeah. But my smoker never went out. I had that baby cooking.
What's happening, Philip?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Doing wonderful.
You guys got my attention. You started talking about the season and how it's going, and it's crazy here. We've got had a really late flow this year. I've never, of course, I'm only like third or fourth season, but it's usually over by July 1st. I mean, my bees have been bringing in honey all through July.
Yeah.
We've had milder weather and lots of rain along.
Right.
So something's happening, but yeah, I'm thinking maybe I missed out on a little bit on, but what they're bringing in now is dark. It's not light like the spring stuff. So I don't know what it is. So.
Yeah. I when I pulled all the honey, I fed them 2 gallons of, I got 2-gallon buckets of Pro Sweet sugar water, and that's it because they didn't need it. Maybe that first 2 weeks when I fed them because I took all their honey, but
yeah,
after that I haven't filled them back up because they're bringing so much in.
That's what I did, Tom. I took everything because I'm going to single deeps. Gave the light one some sugar water, and then when I went back a week or 2 later to give them some more, they were all heavy, even the ones I just gave a half a gallon to. So I was like, well, they're bringing in something. I didn't give, and what I gave them was 1/2 to 1. It was nothing. It was just kind of keep them making brood, but they all got heavy on me. So yeah, and then I was actually making a video. I guess I'll get around to editing it at some point, but somebody gave me some acorn frames, some people from Acorn. So I did a little experiment where I put them in next to my frames, which are just foundationless, to see what they'll do. And when I open the colonies up to put those frames in, they're drawing more wax, and they're drawing wax up through the little hole in the inner covers. So
now, are you talking about they're drawing wax on your foundationless frames before?
No, they're drawing wax. What I did was I took I'm running single deep, so I took all the honey supers off.
Okay.
And then I put feeders on the light ones. And when I came back on some of them, they were building wax from the bottom up around the side of the feeder.
You tell them they wasn't supposed to do that?
Well, how to give them a super if they want to draw me some wax? I haven't seen white wax all year, and I even pulled. I don't know. I did a video on how to recover honey from wax, and I only had 2 pounds because there was no cappings on anything. And now I come back after I think the flow's completely over, and they're drawing white wax everywhere they can. So it's a crazy year here. It really is.
My hives were really, really, really big. So when I took all the honey off, I put a super back on them, and I know it's full. I know when I checked it the other week, it was all wet. I mean, I couldn't even tilt the frames over without stuff running out. So they filled up my 3 big hives. 2 of them filled up 2 supers.
If I had done what I was supposed to do, I got lazy. When I pulled the honey off of them, I usually put it back on to let them clean it out so they don't make the mess, cleaning it out in the yard. But I got lazy and just stuck it out there and let them open feed on it. But if I had put the supers back on, even if I put them above the inner cover, they probably would have gone up there and filled them up. But I didn't, so it is what it is.
They're always going to put them all back on. Well, look, sometime in this coming week, all my supers are getting put back on because I think I can fill them back up again. And I didn't do very good this spring, so I could use some more honey.
I brought all mine back from the farm Now the farm are out there without any supers on them, so if they're still bringing in honey, they're going to do the same thing. But all of those I am putting on my colonies here. I'm not open feeding those. I'm sticking them back on. So they might put some in there. I don't know.
That's one of the luxuries of a long hive.
Mm-hmm.
You
got
a 30 frame hive. I mean, you just keep frames in it. And don't worry
you don't have to
about
guess. You don't have to. I mean,
right.
We've never, it's only been 3 years of experience, but past July 1st or maybe the 7th, it's been just hot and dry and nothing, but not this year. This year it's been continuing on.
That's because clover's been huge this year. Best clover crop I've ever seen during the summertime.
I'm sure it's from all that continuous rain, it just keeps getting longer.
And we hadn't, the rain finally stopped here right about the first week of June, and we hadn't had that much, but we have had a sporadic rain here and there. But I think it just rained so much that there was so much groundwater that it's supporting a lot more than it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was out there, I guess it was, I pulled like 4 supers of capped honey, and I knew there was some I was leaving on there. But when I went back last weekend, I was just going to pull everything off because I have this damn weed that will bloom, and it's later blooming. I see it growing, but I have this weed that'll ruin the honey if I leave it on there. So I don't have any choice out there. I have to pull my honey supers. Well, when I went to pull everything off, I was expecting 200 and optimistically 300 pounds. And I just got through extracting 600 pounds of honey off of those. They did that in 3 weeks. There was, at least double what I thought they would have in 3 weeks time. So
this whole time we've been streaming, it's still raining. It started raining a couple hours ago and it's still raining.
Oh yeah.
So,
if I have another really wet, I'm sorry, Tom.
I said, yesterday it rained in the morning, early afternoon, and evening. Oh, we've been getting inches of rain.
Yeah, we're not getting that. If it rains like it did this spring again, I'll make sure I'll stay more patient with it. That's for sure.
Yeah, me too. I should have never taken the supers off, but I had to treat them.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was just thinking. Like, well, maybe we will get a goldenrod flow, and I won't have to treat those supers that we have you have stacked up at the shop. Because he's like, Melissa, you need to get the supers treated so we can get them stored and whatnot, because they were on one of his work trailers that he needed. I'm like, I have just as much time as you do, which is 0. So they're just gonna have to sit a minute.
I'm treating with OA vapor, so I'm not worried about taking the supers off.
Yeah, I love goldenrod honey. That's my favorite honey. But butterscotch honey.
See, I hear a lot of people don't like it because it smells so strong and pungent. We've never had enough.
If you get ragweed in it, then it's nasty.
Really?
Goldenrod's just a beautiful butterscotch honey.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned ragweed because I have tons of that out at the farm, and
you don't want that honey.
I didn't know that it made any honey. It has a heck of a lot of pollen, but I didn't make any honey.
It's ester. Ester makes the stinky stuff.
But I've had a really good fall crop here, and I don't know if it's goldenrod, but it does smell strong, and it's black licorice color, but I like it, and I sell at the farmer's market, and about 20 or 25% of the people prefer that over the spring honey. And that goes up to about almost half the people in the fall. Something about the cooler weather and the darker honey, the more people start wanting that, or maybe they know it's fall honey. But
so
black honey is usually buckwheat.
So
the buckwheat honey will be black.
I harvested like 450 pounds of fall honey just on my Capel hives, and last spring they made 280 pounds of spring honey and like 450 pounds. I had 3-4 supers on my hives. I went actually. They filled them all up, so I actually made a trip because I knew they weren't doing anything down at the farm. I drove all the way to the farm and came back. Burned that $80 worth of gas or whatever it was, and it paid off because I got another 100 pounds off of them because I was able to give them drawn comb. But yeah, I'll sell every bit of that before I get some this year, and that'll be $5,000 worth of honey. So nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
I'm not gonna badmouth fall honey if I can get $5,000 out of it.
So I've noticed like when we first started selling honey, everybody wanted the light honey, and this year we've got more requests for the darker honey. Because we separate ours light and dark. Mm-hmm. So whenever anybody ever like message us and wants to pick up honey or whatnot, we always ask them, do they want the lighter honey or the darker honey? And we've had more people requesting the dark honey this year than the light.
That's yeah, and I noticed kind of the same thing because I do the same. Whatever I get, I put in the jars, and the first honey I got from my bees here in Capel, which is what people here want to buy anyway. It's local. They think it helps their allergies and all that good stuff. But it was significantly lighter than the second pull. So I let them taste both of it right there together. And the darker, the one it's both darker than it was last year because it was a little bit later, I think, coming on this year than it was last year. But the darker, and it's just a little bit darker, outsells the lighter 2-to-1. When they taste both of them.
We definitely got more light honey this year than dark honey. Usually it's the other way around. Mm-hmm. But I think that was probably more due to all the rain we got because we had an early spring flow that was pretty heavy. But then once the flow really came in where the darker honeys nectars start coming in, is when we started getting all that rain. So I think it just got washed out.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but we get a really good flow in the early season. It's mainly off of tree nectars. And then it kind of starts to drop off a little bit after most of the tree nectars have bloomed out, or the blooms on the trees have started to kind of fade off, and all that nectar source starts dwindling back. At that point, it seems like in our area, it almost kind of switches to more of like a field type forage where you're talking about different clovers and wildflower, stuff like that. Whereas I think that small rains don't really affect the trees in a short-term manner. It's more of a long-term thing as far as the nectar flowing. But any of the field forage that we get, like goldenrods or clovers or anything, asters, anything like that is all very much, if you have it's doing really well and then it like dries out and gets really hot in your area, that can really shrink back at how much nectar these shallower rooted plants are producing. So for us anyway, it seems like that it's hit and miss if we'll get any kind of good field forage honey or nectars coming in. When it gets into after May, June-ish, kind of in there, it can be real hit and miss like last year for us. And I think this might be kind of a broad statement across the board. Seems like most of the country was fairly dry. It dried out, seemed like fairly bad. Everybody was talking about how it was really dry and such. But this year, I'm kind of like hearing quite the opposite. And it seems like we're all talking about how everything's been really wet and having just constant rains coming in where we're still getting trickles of stuff come in, for more of a field forage, not much as tree nectar. What's the difference in the two you're showing, Philip?
Well, this is the two I was talking about. This is the first pull and that was the second, and it's a good bit darker.
Yeah, it is.
The light's not good in here. It's not as dark as what you're seeing, but they're buying more of this than they are of this.
I can't even see through that one I think it's in your right hand.
Yeah.
Or it's on the left side of the screen.
The darker one. Yeah, I can see through this one because I'm looking at the screen. There's a light behind it for me, but they're not as dark as what you're seeing here. And I was trying to compare it to this Richland that I just pulled, and it's more of a yellow tone than brown that the camera's picking up, but it's a good bit lighter than both of those. But I think this has got a lot of mesquite in it.
Well, I started beekeeping in 2018, and I have not ever had a fall flow because typically once 4th of July hits, it doesn't rain and it's dry, hot and dry. So the plants don't put any nectar out in the fall time.
Yeah.
Last year, I thought we were going to get a fall flow. It rained almost all the way to about August, and the plants, goldenrod was huge. They flowered big time, but once August hit, it stopped raining, and they were just really good, healthy plants, but they didn't put out much nectar. So I'm knocking on wood this year that we get a good flow.
Well, our fall doesn't start till October down here, does it, Joey?
Yeah,
Yeah.
little late September, but it really
Yeah.
gets rolling around October 1st.
I'll put my supers back on September 15th down at the country, because that's when that nasty weed will be given up. But
I'm putting mine on.
Yeah,
I'm putting mine on in a week because it'll be starting soon.
Yeah, it's been blowing my mind to watch videos and people talking about getting ready for winter and all that stuff, because winter's a long way away for us down here.
You don't get winter.
We hadn't even thought about it. I'll pull honey if I get a fall crop. I'll pull it on about November 1st, and then I'll start feeding hard if I need to. So, and I'll have plenty of time. It won't matter. It won't. If I get them heavy by January 1st, I'm probably okay, because it's just not gonna. We'll have some cold spots, but in 2 or 3 days it'll be up to 60 again. So
we could have a blizzard by then.
Not any big deal.
You know, you've heard me talk about how last fall was probably the best fall flow that I've ever seen. And I was talking to a guy, he's a commercial beekeeper. He's not a migratory beekeeper, but he's commercial. He sells lots of honey, tons of honey, and sells packages all over the country. And I was talking to him earlier this year, and we were talking about the fall flow, and he said that he had already told several people when he saw that fall flow, he said, you can get ready. We're going to have a bunch of swarms in the spring. Sure enough, I had asked him about, is his bees swarming like mine are trying to swarm? And he said, yeah, and that's what he told me. He said, I seen it just like a rattlesnake standing in front of me. He said, I knew when I saw that fall flow coming in, we were going to have trouble with swarms.
Well,
and sure enough, it did.
Yeah, and I've been, as I catch a swarm, I'm not putting my traps back up, so I don't have. I think I only have like 3 traps up out there, and they're not the ones that usually catch. And then this last weekend, there was one in my water meter, and then there was one hanging from a tree. So I'm like, man, I should have left those boxes up. At least they would have had somewhere to go. Although the one in the water meter was like 40 yards from a perfectly good swarm trap. I don't know why they had to disrespect me like that. But Joey gave me credit, so I caught him. I'm at 16 now.
Yeah. You passed me up.
No, you said you had 16. That's what I've been shooting for. So that's what you told me anyway. I don't know if you.
Is that my count? I can't remember. This whole season's a blur right now.
It's been pretty hot and heavy this year, that's for sure.
Yeah. But if we get a flow anything close to last year, when I split, I'm going to split everybody down to one frame. I'm going to split them down like crazy.
Yeah,
that's pretty bold.
When I was pulling that honey, I was really wishing that I had a bunch of empty comb and deep boxes, because I would have just put another deep on everything with just foundation, maybe pulled up a couple of frames of brood, just to let them right. And maybe if I fed them, I wouldn't care. I'd get comb because I want to sell some nukes next year anyway. So
yeah,
but
that's kind of what I'm looking for too, Philip. And I'd like for them to build me on the really strong colonies, build me maybe a box of comb, so I have that readily available for next year. You can just start using that, making splits, and then introduce new combs in.
it just doesn't feel right when you're putting that thing back together and the bees are just pouring out on the sides that you don't give them something.
Yep.
You know, it
that
just
was the
doesn't feel right.
exact same feeling that I had. I want to give them a little bit of room back inside there, even if they don't build much on it. You know, I want to give them a little bit of room, and that's exactly what we do. Most of our really strong colonies have 3 deep boxes on them right now. You know, I normally run 2, but I've got a third one sitting right on top, and I'll leave it on until the population starts to drop. Once the population drops, at that point in time, our temperatures will start to cool just a little bit. I'll pull that box back off, condense them back down to 2 boxes, and if they need to go down to 1 box, do that. But hopefully, everyone will remain within 2.
I felt the same way because it gets so hot here in August and I was like, I felt bad about the ones the ones that were heavy, I didn't feed, and if I didn't feed them, I didn't put a box on top either. I probably should have just given them an empty box just to give them that little bit of a transition for the temperature.
Yeah. Now, do you typically run single brood, Philip?
I'm just kind of switching to it. I did about half last year, and I'm pretty much going all single brood now this year.
Tell me what is it that you like about it yourself? I mean, I think I can imagine, but what's your thought?
For one, if you have a low honey flow, you're going to get a little honey anyway. That's one thing, and the other thing is it's just a lot easier to deal with. You know, knowing where your queen is, only having to go through 1 box, all that.
Mm-hmm.
I play around with these Texas deeps, and boy, I'm really liking those things, it's basically a single and a medium, but it's on 1 frame. It's not 2 frames. So those things, a couple of those I have been kicking butt. They fill that thing up with bees, and I hadn't had to feed any of those. Those were heavy coming, but the brood is from the bottom to about halfway up into the medium, and then they top it with honey. And it's plenty heavy to get us at least through the fall, hopefully on into winter. So that was nice that I had 7 or 9 or whatever colonies. I didn't have to worry about putting any food on.
Yeah,
that was really good. So I'm not gonna switch to it, but I'm just gonna keep adding 3 or 4 of those every year, just to see how it goes. I'm real happy. I'm up to I think 9 of them now.
What I really like, me working full time, if I had double deeps, I could not handle as many hives as I got, because I don't have time to go through 20 frames trying to figure out what's going on. But I just got that single deep. I know the queen's down there. I know real quick, just pulling out that center frame, if everything's good or not, and I can close them right back up.
Yeah. One thing
I got to pull out an end frame, so I have a little bit of space in the center frame, and my check's done.
Yeah. One thing I need to do, because I usually run 1.5, which is a deep and a medium. So a lot of my mediums has had brood in it. So a lot of my comb for honey is real janky. It's got a lot of pollen in it and all that. So I'm going to have to go through and do a big culling of my honeycomb to try to clean it up, because it's just, I even had, when I harvested here, some of that stuff that's got a lot of pollen in it, down here, we're fighting wax moth and small hive beetles. If I don't get it extracted within 3 or 4 days, stuff starts hatching out in it. So,
yeah.
Yes, I run a deep, queen excluder, and another deep, then mediums.
So Joey, do you have a timeline you give yourself after you harvest before you extract? Because I know if I don't do that, I'm going to lose it too.
You talking about after I pull them and put them in the honey house?
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually like to. I have only went like 24 hours in the drying room, but I have actually. Normally, I try to go 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it's really necessary.
Yeah, I harvested on Saturday, and I started extracting on Monday, and then today is when I just stayed with it, because I was like, I'm going to lose it if I didn't get it today, because I actually was finding some creepy crawlies in there. They hadn't slimed anything, but they were in there. I'd find them and pick them out and keep going. So
Yeah.
See, I only got to worry about my deep frames.
But
All
that's
my honey
mostly
frames have never had brood in them.
when I say
All
that,
my
but
medium.
a lot of that is because I have those honey frames now that were brood comb, and a lot
Right.
of it, pretty much the whole thing was brood in some of them. So that's where it's really kind of getting bad. Was
Right.
was those. So if I call those out, the ones that they drew out and didn't ever put brood in, those the pests don't seem, even the hive beetles don't seem to be attracted to those as
No,
much as,
nothing touches them.
yeah.
I can store those outside with
I,
lid on them.
I don't think we could get away with that here, but they prefer that old dark dirty comb. The hive beetles here do.
Oh, yeah, they like that comb, that pollen and
Yeah.
the cocoon cells.
I've seen hive beetles in it, but I think it was more for the food than it was anything else. They were just everything was kind of mixed up.
Yeah. Well, I think I bet if you gave them more than 4 or 5 days, you'd start to see the larvae in there.
Yeah.
But
Well, I in my honey house now, I try to keep it warm and the humidity way down.
yep, they say that helps. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember now where the number is. I think it's below 50% that hive beetle eggs isn't viable anymore.
But if they're in the
There was a guy in my local area that said 40%. That was the number he threw out. Not
40.
sure how true it
Okay.
is.
Yeah, I try to get mine around 35.
But does that count even if they've laid them into the frame already?
I think
'Cause
it dries it out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it does. Okay. Because I mean, I didn't, none of mine appeared real wet, but I was drying it anyway. But everything I tested, and even the last I tested today, was like 17%. It wasn't wet at all. So
I noticed that a little bit this year more than typical. The bees weren't capping the honey, and I would test it, and it would be fine.
yeah,
I don't know why, because it was wetter or what. I don't know what the deal was.
here I think the uncapped is drier than the capped. If you tested it side by side.
Right.
I've had pretty good readings this year. My wettest reading was like 18.1, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is around 17.
Yeah, same thing. I had a lot, mostly 17.
I don't know about you guys, but I can kind of tell when I cut the cappings off how it runs out. It's noticeably different, even if it's just between 18 and 19. There's a big difference in the way it runs out of there.
Sometimes you cut those cappings off and it doesn't even hardly want to come out.
Right.
So dry.
That's like 16 or 15.
Yeah.
We've actually almost got it that dry before, and it was kind of difficult to get it out. And it seemed like that there was more residual honey left on the combs after we spun it. So the bees had a little bit more to take back home with them, once we set the boxes. So I don't consider that a loss, but
You just got to spin it a little bit longer too. Get it out.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, the fall honey here is a lot thicker than the spring honey.
Yeah.
I
get a lot of that black locust honey. It's thin. It's thin honey.
What were you saying, Tom?
What kind of
black locust honey?
Oh, hold on. Y'all are both named Tom. Sorry about that. That's funny.
You got to say,
Stereo.
I'll go with Mac. Call me Mac, Philip.
Okay.
Tom too.
Yeah, Tom was asking a question about something. Tom.
Yeah, the question that I had for you: what target, moisture content target, are you guys looking for? If you're looking for an ideal target goal, what is it you guys look for?
I'm not looking for a target. I just want to make sure that it's not going to ferment. So if it's below 18, I'm happy. But it does.
That's where I am.
It has, in my opinion, once it gets below 17, 16, between 16 and 17, it's got a much better flavor and mouthfeel to it, in my opinion.
I agree with that 100%. That's kind of where I was going with that. Melissa and I look to 17 to 17 and a half. That's what we like to see. I feel like the consistency is nice and thick like a honey. And I also feel like even though the nectars that we have in our area, I don't think are as conducive to fermentation as some other ones that I've heard about fermenting at a lower moisture content. But we still look for that 17 to 17 and a half. But I do like that consistency or that mouthfeel better whenever it's just, even 1% lower makes a really big difference. It really does. It's like the sugars are concentrated a little bit more and the taste almost changed just a little bit.
Yeah,
if I had my ideal, I'd say 17%.
Yeah.
If you get dry, if you get lower than that, it's too thick.
It is pretty thick.
I got a couple of gallons one time I was drying out and I overdone it and got it too dry. I wouldn't even blend it in with any other honey then. It felt weird even when you're eating it raw.
It's like taffy.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even want to put it in anything. It just was weird. I just kept it.
It was like trying to. Was it like trying to lick dried silicone off of a spoon? It just went off.
That's it. It didn't even want to melt in coffee, so I had to stir it in hot coffee.
Oh boy, that's thick.
Well, that's good. I think that's what gets people's attention with creamed honey is it has it's real compact, strong taste. And matter of fact, the lady was buying honey from me, and we were just talking about honeys and the differences. And I said, "Have you tried creamed honey?" And she's like, "No," she didn't even know what it was. So I went and got some of. I let her pick between Brian's Flower Street, which was just the plain, and then Russell Koopman. I've got two of his. Mm-hmm. She picked Brian's, and I gave it to her, and her head went back. And she's like, "That's just too sweet." That's what she said. She didn't really like it, but I love it. But
that's the point of it. It's a sugar.
Too intense, I guess.
What I like doing is because you're talking about how when you the moisture content, it kind of changes the flavor, it changes the texture, whatnot. Mm-hmm. And the same with creamed honey. It completely changes the flavor. Because I'll have people taste the creamed honey first, and then I'm like, okay, this creamed honey is made with this dark honey. This is the exact same honey, only this is crystallized and made into creamed honey. There's nothing added to it. It's the exact same honey. And then I'm like, now taste how much different these two taste.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how just changing that crystal structure can change the flavor of the honey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when I'm
go
ahead, Tom.
I've had a few customers that say, "Can't you make that liquid honey to taste like your cream honey?" I said,
"Nope." That's not how that
works. So when I let people taste the honey at the farmer's market, I made a mistake the last time I was started out. I was going to let them taste from right to left, from my right to left, but the fall honey was on the right, and I won't make that mistake again. I always start with the spring honey, and I finish with the fall honey because because it's just more intense of a flavor.
Like a progression of flavors, yeah.
So I want it to get stronger as they going through it.
I usually start with the cream honey, or if I have comb honey, because. That way I don't have to get a new spoon for them. I have to,
Right.
I dig that spoon into something I need to dig it in. And the other things I can just squirt on their, spoon.
Here. I'm going to grab something and show you what I do, which you might want to think about. Hold on. I'll be right back.
I know Jason with Duck River, he's shown them at market before, and he has like pretzels sitting out. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know that I want people doing their own samples. I want to do the sample, squirt the I just see them making a huge mess out of my sample jars and kids getting a hold of it and whatnot.
Drink of water would be the best thing between samples.
What?
Drink of water.
Oh yeah,
Water.
definitely. But yeah, I'll start with the cream honey and then do the lighter honeys and then end with the darker honey. Or the darker honey if we have bourbon honey, end with the bourbon honey.
There you go. Sold.
So yeah, I don't have any creamed honey, but I use those little condiment dispensers, those little squeeze bottles.
Uh-huh.
And I give them, I let them. Let me see.
Your camera's a little high. Yeah.
I let them take and all this is a craft stick I get from Michael's, and I cut them in half. Okay, on my saw, and they take that, and I drip a drop of honey on there, and they taste it, and then they usually will flip it over, or I'll move over and drip it on another part of it. But that's really an inexpensive way to, and you don't end up with a lot of plastic spoons you're throwing away either. So
yeah, I buy wooden spoons from Amazon, and I have a little trash can there. I'm like, you can keep your souvenir spoon, or you can throw it away.
Yeah, I have a trash can. They can throw them in, but.
Well, that's a good idea. And then when you get done with it, you can save them and put them in your smoker.
I hadn't thought about that, Tom. That is a good idea. Man, you're a thinking man, Renaissance man.
As soon as I saw that, I said, "Man, that's perfect." When I did the tree cut out, put force out today, I use sticks. I get the base going, I pack it, and then I throw a bunch of sticks in.
Mm-hmm.
I throw a bunch
mine off the ground. And
those
sticks will burn for hours.
Yeah.
You said smoking pellets, Spanky?
Yeah. After I get the pine straw started in the bottom, I put smoking pellets in it.
That's what we do. We got like two, I don't know, they were on clearance at Target, 2 50-pound bags or whatever they come in of pellets. And so we get a little bit of fire going in the bottom and then load it up with those pellets, and then we use shredded paper for ours. We just shred junk mail.
Yeah.
It needs to have a use. So
yeah, I put little bits of wood scraps in mine too sometimes. That helps to keep it burning at the bottom. But a lot of times I don't have it with me. But I do use wood shavings for my smoker fuel, just because it's a byproduct of building my own frames.
Right.
Yeah, if it gets too hot, I'll put some green leaves, grass, whatever, to kind of cool it off. But I typically don't have that issue.
Well,
anytime you guys at the shop at work used to use the planer, anytime the guys at work before retired, when they would be planing wood,
yep, that's the
I would
best.
collect a bucket full of that.
The shavings on plant. Yep.
And I can't remember what kind of wood it was. They did one time, and I threw a handful in that smoker, and it almost blew up when it ignited. It was
really had some rosin in it or something, probably.
Yeah. I said, I'll be very careful with that. I'll be burning myself up.
Yeah. The joiner works pretty good too. You get good shavings out the joiner, and to a little bit lesser degree the router, but they're a little finer. But sometimes you can get pretty good ones out of the router.
You're giving me ideas now. My dad used to work at a stair manufacturing company. Like, I wonder if he has any connections there still, knows anybody that's still working there that I can collect their wood shavings.
The planer's nice. The little chips are a little bit bigger than your fingernail, and they're real flat.
Yeah.
They're perfect.
Flaky. They're little flakes.
Yeah, exactly.
So James Noel said full PP, no smoke, only 5 stings. I don't mind taking stings. So
because I took 2 stings today because I didn't wear any equipment.
Honestly, I'd rather get stung a little bit than wear full PPE. It's too darn hot outside to wear all that. I'm like, give me a veil and some rubber gloves, then I'm good to go.
I wear my suit, but I got my smoker because you may have to move them. You have to get them to move.
Yep.
You may want to clear the top to put your inner cover on there. There's more uses than just not getting stung.
Yeah. Well, when it's really hot, my full suit is that triple mesh, fully vented suit. So that's the coolest thing I have when it's really hot.
Yeah, I have a
Well,
Guardian.
besides shorts and a t-shirt, I'm not going to do that with my bees.
You
Sorry.
guys wouldn't like me. I go out what I'm wearing: t-shirt, shorts, and sandals.
No, not me.
And most times I can get away with it.
I'll only wear a t-shirt if my sleeves don't gap, because otherwise they're crawling up my sleeves and I don't want to get stung in the underarm.
Yeah, I get stung here.
Yeah.
Or in my collar.
I mean, I always have my jacket and my regular bee gloves, with us. But if it's hot outside, I'd rather just wear a long sleeve shirt and my veil and be done.
It's amazing how the same bee yard will have a different attitude.
Yeah.
One day than it does the next.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when I have to go out there and it's raining or it's pretty cloudy out, then I'll put a veil on so I don't get stung in the face. That's good about it.
I have a couple of those. I call them fishing shirts, but they're long sleeve, real light material, and they've got the cut in the back with the mesh underneath it. That, to me, that's cooler than a t-shirt to wear. It keeps the sun off of your skin, and it protects you reasonably from the bees.
So what is everybody's go-to veil? I haven't found just a veil that I actually like.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tom. I've got 5 different styles, and
I can't see through any of them.
Yeah.
So I have a Guardian bee jacket. Tom has a Comfort Pro. The Guardian is great if you want really good protection, right? But the veil is very thick. Like the screen on the front is really thick. It's hard to see through sometimes. Yeah. I don't like round veils. I don't like how they sit on my head. That drives me bananas.
So Lee, it's interesting that you brought that picture of that up because I actually was looking, and I don't even know if I'm going to like it, but the lady who owns the bee store here in St. Louis, when I had found that one, it looked like something that might last, but I couldn't tell if it was really thick and I'd be able to see through it. But I told her, I said, hey, can you order me one of these in? I'm like, I want to try it. I'm like, I haven't found a veil that I really, again, because like Melissa said, I like the Guardian jacket. It's well thought out. It's a very, very good jacket. It's durable. It'll last the test of time. The thing that I didn't like, and I even talked to, doggone it. Joey, help me out. What's his name? The guy that owns it.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about anyway. The nicest guy you'll ever meet. I mean, he really wants to make the product even better. And I think that he's put a lot of good effort into it. And for whatever reason, his name is escaping me. So somebody throw it out there if they remember.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just having a mind blank.
Me too.
Super nice guy. But anyway, I told him, I said, my wife had that and I was going to buy one. I said, but I had the hardest time seeing through it. And especially Terry, that's it. Yep. Terry with Guardian.
Yeah.
Trying to see down inside those cells, especially if they were darker comb, I threw that veil. And then I met Matthew with Comfort Pro and I tried his on and I really liked it and I could see through a lot better. So I ended up buying it.
The mesh is really fine. Yeah,
the mesh is much more fine. And it's a lot lighter. So I like that. A little bit more breathable. Again, which I thought, now there's occasion I'll take if I'm soaked wet and I have this jacket on, sometimes on the back of the shoulders, I'll take stings in the back of the shoulders, which I don't really care much about that as long as I don't get stung above my neck. And so anyway, that's been a good jacket. I bought a second one from him. And actually, he's just redesigning some of his material and a few other things. So everything will be 100% USA. And he sent me a prototype the other day that I haven't actually tried on yet. But again, I like it when these guys, USA made products, small businessmen making really great products, much like Terry with Guardian, or Matthew with Comfort Pro. But again, when it comes down to the veil, I've we've tried a couple of cheap ones, and I'm like, yeah, they don't excite me that much, and I just haven't found one that I really like. So Lee pulled up that one picture there. I told her to order me one in. I thought, you know what? If I waste $50 or $60 on it, then so be it. I just trying to find something that I can wear just a veil, at certain times. I know that the bees aren't going to light me up. But
I like the fencing veils.
I'm gonna tell you what a feller told me, and I hadn't done this yet, but I was complaining at a meeting one time about trying to see through a veil with reading glasses. Y'all, I guess you don't have to use them, but I was talking about how it just made things even worse. Trying to see, just seeing the bees in general, it's no issue. It's when I'm trying to see eggs in the cell, or tiny larvae. And he told me to get some cheap flat black paint and spray the inside of that veil, and it would take some kind of glare off of it. He said, "Don't paint the outside, just the inside." Now, I've never tried it because I never think about it really. But,
part of me wants to try it, but I don't want to try it and then have it in fear of it messing it up even more.
Don't try it on your $50 veil.
No, get your one that you kind of retired and try it and see what it does.
Yeah, there you go.
My favorite veil, Tom, that I have is not here. It's out at the farm, but it's one of those that has I don't even know how to describe it. I think it came from Dayton or Man Lake or somewhere, but it has the big square in front, and then it tapers back, and it fits over a like a hard hat thing. Which that's my favorite one as far as being able to see and comfort, because it's got the string that goes under your arms and you tie around your waist. My favorite veil but it does kind of move around a little bit on that helmet. It kind of, when you go down, it kind of sags.
Yeah.
My favorite, I guess, veil comfort is this like cowboy hat style.
Okay.
But what I don't like about this one is it's got these little bands that pinch you under the arms. It's kind of like, if I had this one with the strings that tied around it, I think that'd be my favorite. But
I would think those strings being tight to my body would drive me nuts when I was hot outside.
Yeah, this is uncomfortable because and if you don't have that, it seems to just like ride up around your neck, and the little.
See, I have two different veils that just have the elastic that go under your arms, and I like those. I like those just fine.
Oh, you like that? That's what I don't like. I like the string. This one, it's kind of like that first one you showed, but
I would go get it, but it's out in Tom's truck. I don't feel like going all the way up there.
But
I never use the straps when I use mine like that.
Really? Because that's what I don't like. It's got all this extra here, but once you put this
the ones that I have don't have all that extra.
Oh, because if you put this under your arm, all that extra is just wasted. Because it's
the ones that I have aren't as well, don't have that much extra material.
But yeah, that one somebody just showed. I think that's what I have out at the farm, and to me it's got the best visibility of any of them, and it's pretty comfortable too.
Yeah, there's a fine line between being durable and then having the visibility, because I feel like that if either one are lacking, they're just, I mean, for me anyway, just not a good fit. If I can't see an egg down in a cell, especially a dark cell, and I started to carry a flashlight, just a small little pin light that I put in my jacket that stays in there all the time, that I can pull out and shine down inside the cell. I mean, that works. It's I mean, let's be honest here. None of us are getting any younger, and our eyes aren't getting any better, right? So, we got to think of those fun, interesting little things that help us out in the bee yard.
Yeah, but I'm like
a real simple tie around. I can't find a picture of it anymore.
Yeah, I like the ones that you cross and tie around your waist too, because it pulls everything down low.
Yeah. And I have to wear a baseball cap because it's even open at the top.
Yeah, that's what I was going to tell you, Tom. I got the hat that's kind of like a wicker, but it's completely ventilated, so it lets all the heat out. I don't know if those white
Yeah.
plastic ones, they do have little slits cut in them, but I can't
Yeah.
imagine that they don't trap a lot of heat being plastic like that.
Philip, I had one of those that had the string that come down and you tie it around your waist.
Yeah.
And I was doing a removal out of a camper in the middle of July. And I got hot and I needed to cool off. And the bees were so stirred up. This was out in the middle of a field with a shade tree around. And the bees got so stirred up that I had to walk outside that field to get away from them where I could get air. I needed to get my veil off. I couldn't get enough air. And I got probably close to at least 200, 300 feet away from that camper where they started slowing down. And here I am trying to get that thing untied, and it's done got a knot in it.
Oh, no.
Here I am about to panic, and I can't get air. And I'm puffing smoke, too, to get the bees off of me. I walk all the way back over there to my toolbox, and I get my lineman pliers. I had them in there, and whatever that material was for that string, that lineman pliers wouldn't even cut it. It just matched. Then I had to dig around in there. Here I am going, trying to get air. And I finally found my knife, and I cut that string. I cut it, and
it's all mesh, Joey. I don't know how that could have been.
Yeah.
It was blocking air. As soon as I
man.
got that thing off, I could breathe a little bit again.
You know what's funny? The veil I use the most is this cheap thing. You get like 2 for $10.
Yeah.
You see the dirt rooster.
Yeah, I like those.
The reason I wear this one is because I can just throw it on and go do something real quick and take it off. It doesn't take any time at all. And I don't ever even walk out my bee yard anymore without something over my face, because as soon as I do, they're going to hit me right in the ear.
Oh, man, for sure. Yeah, I think poor Joey's got PTSD from that string, you know?
Yeah, he won't ever have those strings again.
That's been a long time ago, and I never forgot it.
I'm gonna check and make sure I have a nice bunny rabbit tied around my waist, so I don't have to.
So this is
scarred for life.
So this is kind of what the one. Where's
Go
that?
this way,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, the light is not. So see, there's not all that extra material.
And that one goes over the shoulders, right?
Yeah, and it has elastic that goes under your arms right there.
Okay.
Makes you look like a nun.
Well, if you're wearing a black shirt.
My elastic ones, it just seems to bunch up around my neck. It doesn't go over my shoulders.
Yeah. So that's the one I like. He doesn't care for it, I guess.
Man.
I bought it for me, so I don't care.
I learned long ago that smoke, you may as well throw that away on them mean bees. You need some of that honey bandit, honey bee gone, spray that stuff around, make them go on. Y'all think I'm joking? I had bees like Bruce down there. They'd cover the veil.
Oh yeah, where you can't see.
That's why I got a full suit. I don't want to run into another one of them.
I hadn't had any of my own like that, but I helped a lady find a queen and kill it, and they were like that. You couldn't see through the veil; they were all in front of your eyes,
and they follow you.
Yeah, and I turned my head to look this way, and my nose hit the side of that veil, and they got me, bam, right on the side of the nose.
They were outside my door for 3 days, waiting on me to come out. Just me. They knew.
Yeah, they were shooting that venom right through that mesh.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if the bees are that mean, they're gonna die. They're gonna survive in my yard. I'll tolerate a little bit of bees being a little testy from time to time, but if they're gonna be gripping on the front of that veil so tightly, or you can't get out your door 2 days later, yeah, I'm gonna go kick that whole hive over and torch the whole thing.
Well, Tom, when I made that split the other week, I took my main hive and I totally tore it down 100%. Used every frame. Pinched the queen. I said, I don't care about this hive anymore. She's gone, and I used all her bees.
There you go.
I had one that was bad like that, Tom, and I kind of did the same thing. I went through and found the queen. I put her in a little 5-frame split off to the side, and then let them requeen themselves. And I scraped all the drone brood down and came back, and the new queen, she's not near as bad. They're not great, but she's not as bad. But that one where I moved the queen over, they built up. They're starting to get bad again.
I pinched her. I don't even want her in my yard.
But I'll
Or
tell you
get you a
what.
customer.
I'll tell you what, though, I cut one out from underneath the trailer, and they were bad news. And but man, those made some honey. They really made some honey.
They do make some honey. Hopefully, you don't die getting it.
I just all I gave them was I cut them out. It was a cutout, and I rubber banded 2 or 3 frames, and I gave them maybe one more drawn comb, and the rest they drew out themselves. And they made as much honey as anybody, and they only had about a half season to do it in. So they're way in the back of the property, though. I'm not too.
There you go. I don't have that luxury.
I got them way in the back. So.
Hey, Philip, do you ever think that possibly, because you're down there in mid Texas, is that right?
Yeah, yes. One of my I'm North Texas and then Central Texas.
Do you ever feel like you have found or stumbled across any bees with some Africanized genetics, or you think some of them just maybe a little bit testy, or what's your thought there?
I guess you could say it's Africanized, but yeah, I've run into some pretty nasty ones. The first 2 colonies I bought, one of the colonies sent the man to the hospital.
Oh boy.
And I found out within a month which one that was, and
I bet
I ended up euthanizing them. But now they weren't follow you and chase you down or come sting you for no reason. But when you got into them, they reacted.
Yeah,
they boil out the top.
Yeah, but that's what they do. Yeah, and luckily I had another one because it was a pleasure, and it was 2 feet away. If that was the only one I had, I didn't know anything about bees. And I bought full size colonies, which is kind of a mistake for a beginner, but I did it anyway. I don't usually do things halfway. But I did help a guy. His tree fell over onto his neighbor's fence, and when the tree people came out to cut, they started getting stung. So I went over there to help him with those bees. And first thing I did was I stood there by where they were coming out with my vacuum and vacuumed up a bunch of them. And then I started cutting through with my chainsaw, and they were pretty tough. So I finally told them, I said, I can't get them. They were like several feet up in that tree. And I wasn't going to get on a ladder to go after them. So I gave him some honey bandit and some bee jackets and said, spray them good with this and tell you guys to, cut them out that way. Well, the bees that I brought home, I was just going to stick them with another colony. It wasn't 500 bees probably that I stood there and vacuumed up, but they were all the foragers. Those started going around and stinging all my neighbors. So now when somebody calls me wanting me to help them with some bees, I'm like, yeah, I'll pass because I can't be bringing, if I don't know what they are. But I haven't held to that. But if I get into some and they're tough like that, I'm not bringing them back to my house again because they went over and stung my neighbor just out of meanness. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, if they're mean like that, tell them to give them a bucket of soapy water.
Yeah, I helped a lady. She came home. Some of hers turned mean, and she came home, and her dogs were in her goldfish pond with just their head out, and the bees were stinging the dog's head. And one of her dogs, she had to put it down. She said it was really old, near death anyway. But I told her, I said, okay. She said, I need you to help me kill these bees. So I told her to go out and put a trash bag over the top of them. And then I said, I'll come help you like in a day or so. We went out there. They were getting air. So we just I just took dish soap and a pump sprayer, and we broke open the top and started spraying them. And they didn't seem too mean when we broke open the top, but she said she said they killed my dog. They got to go.
That's another thing. Those screen intercovers are good for. You got some mean bees. throw one of them things on. When they all get in there late that evening, you can come in there and dump a bucket of water, soak your water in them.
I'm surprised I'm still a beekeeper. My first year, I bought a package of bees, and the guy said they was his bees, but he was lying. And he bought them down from Florida. He drove down to Florida and brought them up. And I couldn't get within 30 yards of them without them attacking me. And I didn't know. I said, well, these are just, I already had put all my equipment on. When my son showed up and parked his truck, 30, 40 yards away, and he couldn't even get out of his truck, they were hitting him. I said, something's wrong with these bees.
Yeah.
I had to so my first year, I had to euthanize some bees.
Yeah. Tom, when you're talking about whether they're hot or mean or not, I would say that, less than 10%, 5% maybe are what I'd say ornery.
Yeah.
Not flat out mean. But if they start acting crazy here, I just haul them down to the mean streets at the farm.
Yeah.
Where there's not many people around.
We've done the same thing before too. Tolerated a colony that was a little bit mean, moved it from anywhere where there was any homes, let it finish up the year, and either if it tries to requeen itself, let it happen, or if I get sick of it or don't want to tolerate it anymore, we'll usually squash the queen and then either break that hive apart and make splits out of it, or whatever we decide to do at the time. But usually they won't last long, around here, just because it's really counterproductive. It's for us anyway. If I'm trying to move through a bee yard quickly and hit anywhere between 20 and 40 colonies in a yard, and you have one or two hives that are just, every time you open them up, they just literally pour to the top of the frames. You smoke them, they go down for about 5 seconds, and they pop right back up. I mean, you can't even go through the colony to inspect it because it's so distracting. There's bees pouring to the top. You're smashing them, makes everything even worse. So, for the sake of just moving quickly through it, I just wanted to eliminate that. It's just not something I want to deal with.
And you also have to remember, inspect those last, because if you inspect them early, they're going to be chasing you around the bee yard the rest of the day.
That's right.
Hey guys, I'm gonna bow out. Everybody have a good night.
All right. Good night, Tom.
Good night. See you later.
I think we're going to give it just a few more minutes, and I think we're going to shut it down anyway. I think Lee's in the background been helping out, but he's sick and he wants to bail off here, and I think we got some stuff.
Yeah, he's not feeling good. All right, maybe I'll hang on for 2 more minutes.
Anybody else have any final thoughts about what they're doing this week, or anything moving forward they want to share?
Yeah, I need to do that. I need to see how much it's going to cost to get a queen now, because that one's a little ornery. They boil out the top, and I don't like that. Need to see about getting a new queen for them. I might take that nuke off of them. That hive ain't doing nothing with it. See if I can find fish that queen out on a frame, put her in there, put some food on them. See if them mean bees will draw the rest of that nuke out while I wait to kill off any queen cells.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would think
Thursday I'll let everybody know how many queens I got. So next Thursday I'm doing my check.
Were you hoarding some good queens there, Tom? You're not going to share with us?
No, I see how many got mated.
Oh, gotcha.
How many made it back?
I see.
So,
well, hopefully you don't have a large population of dragonflies or what's that? Purple marlins.
I think I got about 80%. My guess.
That's pretty good.
Good number.
Yeah, I'd be happy with 80% all the time when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That's about the best I get in the springtime is 80%.
Yeah, and I'd say about the same for us. If we get an 80% take, that makes me pretty happy. This early spring when we tried to bring in some mated queens from I think down in your neck of the woods, Philip. I piggybacked on a load with another guy in my area. I said, yeah, I'll take a handful of them. I can't remember now how many got. 13. My take was only like,
it was horrible.
It was like 6, 5.
It was so bad.
It was one of those things where it was it was worth, the money was worth the lesson, but I don't think I would push Mother Nature again like that to try to get something that early, because I'm always a little concerned that, were there enough drones in that area to really get well mated, or did they actually let that queen lay for a nice 3-week pattern, to really develop that queen pheromone? All these things crossed my mind. Whereas
they were mated queens though.
Yeah, they were
correct. Yeah, they were mated queens coming out of Texas pretty early. And so we made a bunch of splits, and I made them a little bit heavier, throw an extra shake or two of bees in there just to temperature regulate. And I didn't have a problem with that, but the acceptance was absolutely horrible. Again, I think it was like 5 or 6 out of 13. And for me, that's a waste of money.
Yeah.
We typically don't buy mated queens anyway. We usually will make our own, or I'll get virgins from Corey Stevens down south. So we're kind of just working out of our own yard for the most part. But
well, I mean, I don't know how early it was, but it would take me until I would say first to middle of May to have queens ready for somebody to.
I would say it was no, it was in April. I want to say
if it was April, it was beginning of April. It was pretty early.
Well, that's the places around here that sell queens. They all sell them starting the 1st of April. But I know those queens aren't coming from this area. Those queens are coming from far south Texas or from Georgia.
What was it? They were from Texas. What was the name of the?
I can't remember now. The name that we got them from escapes me.
It was a lady, wasn't it?
Yeah. Rupert's apiary. Do you guys recognize that name? I think it was Rupert's.
Was it South Texas? That's believable. If it's tropical down there, but central to North Texas, I can't see how they would.
I think the lady still sends me information, because like for our club, we brought up 100 queens from down south, and I had reached out to a few different queen breeders, and I'd asked for some recommendations from some guys in my area that have dealt commercially on some stuff. And I can't remember now who. I used Garner's apiary. They're out of Georgia. And then I'd gotten a recommendation from out of Texas. I want to say it was Rupert's, if I remember correctly. And I think they're a reputable queen breeder.
Roofers.
Rufers, ER''S apiary. Deep East Texas.
Hold on.
So they have apiary down in Texas, but also Minnesota. They just have their Minnesota address on there. So I'm not sure where their breeding yard is at. It says Deep East Texas. So whatever that means.
Before we get off of here, I just looked at Laffy's, and if anybody's looking for queens, they say if they ship after August 5th, they got to sell on them. So.
The only thing I wouldn't like about getting queens shipped to me anytime throughout the summer months is the fact of them being overheated. And I'll tell you this, I don't have a hate for the USPS, but they seem like they fail more often than they succeed. And this is through my experience as well as everything that I hear. If I'm shipping something, I'm going to pay the extra money to go through UPS, but I generally like to ship queens when it starts to get to summer months, because I've heard too many horror stories about what can happen with the queen when she gets a little bit warm.
Or, they put it on the airplane and then leave it on there for the whole weekend.
That's right. Yep. I mean, those guys that are delivering, being, part of a delivery service, their job is to deliver, not to tend to insects and such. And I'm sure they don't know much about them. And some guys probably don't even want to deal with them. So.
Oh my Lord. Put them on the tarmac at the airport, kill them. Then they put them in the freezer, kill them.
Well, they even talk about, even if the queens make it, the efficacy of the sperm that she has in her spermatheca. If she got a little bit warm, she might still be a good queen. But if the sperm that she has in there is no longer, or a percentage of it's non-viable anymore, she's going to start to become a drone layer very quickly, So they may have sent out a really good quality queen, but by the time it got to you, she may have not been in the best health. So at that point in time, from start to finish, you never got a good queen.
Milam, Texas. Milam. Milam.
You know where that's at, Philip? Milam?
I've heard of it, but I'm not exactly sure where. It must be southeast Texas.
Well, I think we're gonna close it up. It's been almost 2.5 hours, and I know Lee wants to jump off here too. He's not feeling good, so he probably needs to get his rest because he's still been working some pretty heavy hours and such.
Right on the border of Louisiana and Texas, about halfway between. I don't know. It's right there.
It's south of Shreveport.
Yeah.
By I don't know how far that would be.
Okay.
Could be 100 miles. Yep, there it is.
Yeah, it looks like that's down there by Toledo Bend. That big lake there is Toledo Bend.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, hey, listen, I hope everybody has a great week, great weekend. And it's been fun hanging out with everybody here this evening for a little while. But like I said, I think we're going to cut it here. And y'all have a good evening.
All right.
Night, everybody.
Take
Good night,
it easy.
everybody.
Night, everybody.